So as this match loads in, I am Backspin Interactive. Thanks for watching, and this is going to be a video a little different than the last couple. Instead of a devlog, I'm doing basically a comparison between my game Breakaway and its plans versus Rocket League, and the big differences there. Some things that I wanted to focus on. So as a starting point, momentum's really important in Rocket League. That makes the skill ceiling way higher because your level of prediction has to be way better. And also mechanics in order to keep up that momentum. In Breakaway, it's going to be more like a soccer game with humanoid type movement, in terms of speed at least. Not player model, I'll get to that later. But in terms of speed, it's going to be just like sprinting and walking, and there's going to be some wall jumps in there to give that sense of verticality similar to Rocket League, but it's not going to be anything anywhere near as technically or mechanically in depth as Rocket League. Oh, I missed it. I'm definitely about 2,000 to 3,000 hours into playing Rocket League at this point, and I'm still Diamond. And it's because I'm just not naturally a very mechanically gifted player. Like my physical motor skills are pretty naturally bad, I think. So while I have some built up at this point, it's still a very difficult game for me to play, and it's like a constant struggle to play this game, which is great, but lots of time I want to play a game that lets me unwind a little more, and that's where I'll come in with this next point. Ever since the server browsers in games have been kind of demolished, so to speak, and quick play is more of a thing, quick matches, and peer-to-peer matchmaking that's kind of like instant. I don't know if it's necessarily peer-to-peer because it does go through servers, but you get the point. That has kind of eroded community to an extent because community can still exist by finding people you play with or against and adding them and inviting them to your party. But unless you invite someone to your party, you're not going to play with them. And I'll just say that pretty much nobody that I've met in this game really will invite you much. Even if they add you, people kind of forget about each other, and then they don't invite each other because they either feel awkward to, or they don't know if they're a good player or what. I'm not sure exactly why, but this game definitely doesn't have a strong sense of community. So in Breakaway, the thing I want to do differently is maybe have server browsers instead of quick match. Maybe in those server browsers, instead of just one field where the game resets, it's more of a fluid situation where after each goal you'll have some sort of reset, but if the goals are even counted, they reset after maybe 10 goals, and then people can come in, drop out, however they like, just like old server browsers, which you can still do in like quick match with some games, especially like shooters. In Rocket League Casual, it kind of works like that too. So I would like to have maybe a system like that, but a little more freedom, and you could just hang out outside the field and watch the match and talk with your buddy if you want, or talk with someone that you just met in the game. Definitely proximity chat I want to be a feature, because I find very weird that that's not a feature in more multiplayer games, although I know bandwidth might be a concern. Getting stunned on right now, so please excuse that. Yeah, so with server browsers, you could also have an online training component. You could have either a separate server for training, like training servers, the training maps, where you can like do free play type situation with your friends, but with, you know, each person has a ball if they want, or they can like share, pass the ball back and forth. Or you could have those training maps on the very maps where people are playing more competitively. You could even have a field where it's more like a beginner field, and then you have a more advanced field. And that would kind of be able to cut down on the amount of servers, but also, more importantly, build a sense of community. That works. So my next point is, in Rocket League, you'll see the ball spins, but it never affects the direction of the ball until it bounces. And even then, it's the slightest direction change or direction effect based on the spin of the ball. In Breakaway, I already have a curve system that allows the ball to curve on the ground when it's spinning fast and moving fast. and in the air more strongly when it's spinning fast and moving fast in the air, just like in real soccer with a real ball. You can curve it based on the amount of spin you put on it. So I think that's a really fun system that is missing in Rocket League. It somewhat exists in Heat Seeker, but in a completely different way because it always goes towards the goal, which makes it way more predictable. I want it to be a game that's not mechanically hard, but a game that does take a lot of perceptive awareness, if that makes sense. Whereas Rocket League, it's definitely 100% both are required in great amounts. You have to have a lot of perceptive awareness, and you also have to be very mechanically capable. I should be in. Wow. So yeah, that it already feels really good in Breakaway. I'm pretty happy with how the ball curve feels. It's called Magnus effect in real life. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that in multiplayer or with AI. But for now, it's just standing on its own in the free play situation. You can check out my devlogs if you're interested in seeing it. Another similarity with Rocket League is the lack of animations. So the cars might have some level of animations, like the toppers, or some details on the cars will animate, like the exhaust area. But I want it to be similar in my game. So you don't really have legs. There's maybe arms, but they, don't affect the ball necessarily. And in order for that to really sell, it's either going to be some sort of aliens and pods, or some sort of robots, which is like floating robots, which is more of what I'm thinking. Definitely inspired by Wall-E. Eve from Wall-E is kind of along the lines of what I'm thinking in terms of character design. I think that should kind of make the game have a more like fun nature too. Kind of how Rocket League is a little goofy. I like the goofiness aspect, but it can get bad when you throw humans in the mix. I've seen some things in Rematch that make me want to report it to the FBI in terms of racism. There's some very racist characters in there. And people like to make fun of like Vitiligo and Rematch, but I'm going to do a separate video on Rematch, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But that does lead me into microtransactions and accessories and things like that. Colors of your character and the ball. I want a lot of those options to be free, and a majority of those options to be free, and then I'll probably have microtransactions also, similar to Rocket League in that aspect. Definitely when I have the pings from the goal, like hitting the framework of the goal, like you see in Rocket League and Rematch. And otherwise, I want it to be extremely physics-based. That's the biggest similarity to Rocket League. I want it to really have a high sense of control that you don't really get from some soccer games. Or some soccer games can make it a little too easy to control, and it makes it feel cheap or not fun. So with all that said, those are my plans for Breakaway and how it compares to Rocket League. I do have a special place in my heart for Rocket League, but I'm not as interested in it as anymore because I've kind of hit my personal skill ceiling for the moment. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around.